So, Mother-32s, I plugged them in. They're really difficult. I've been sat here for, I don't know, all the afternoon, a bit of the evening. I'm hungry. I've heard so many squeaky frequencies. It's been high glass sounds. It's been crazy basses, different sequencing patterns. Christ, it's almost been too much, honestly. But I think we got something, some interesting stuff kind of come together at the last sort of hour, I guess. Basically, also it's probably worth noting, if it wasn't already obvious, there's no delay on the Mother-32s. So I've got it plugged into my Signature 10 Soundcraft mixer that I use to do these videos, and it has some built-in delays and reverbs and bits and bobs. So it's just using the delay mod effect just to kind of create what kind of I would probably do in the rhythm. There's also a tiny bit of EQ, but nothing too crazy, just a bit of bass on the kind of kick stuff and a bit of highs, nothing too fancy. The delays and stuff are just pretty much flat. Well, flat as much as they are in the internals. It's just such a different experience using this box to the rhythm. Like, the first thing probably to note is that it sounds ridiculously good by comparison, like the oscillators and all that kind of quality that Moog are probably, renowned for, as probably does any analog synth for that matter. So I've been in the rhythm for quite a few months now, and I've not really kind of dived into a lot of the other hardware, and it's noticeable. Like, it's very, very noticeable, at least to me, how deep the bass is and how bright sort of filters go, how brassy those oscillators are. It's quite a step up in terms of like fidelity, I suppose. But that's just a sound. It's not like the be or end or so, but it was noticeable different qualities. Having to kind of like deal with volumes quite a bit to make sure my ears don't blow up. Pretty crazy stuff. The bass is ridiculously heavy on these Mother-32s. I certainly spent sort of a good half an hour just listening to different swelling bass sounds, especially when you put them through sort of certain reverbs. You really get those sorts of that swell of different bass frequencies, which is pretty tasty. What I ended up settling on was really simple 5-step sequencers. I wanted to have the same sequence in each one, but you can't actually tell, at least I haven't worked it out yet, which note you've kind of got programmed in. So like you got to press like so many different button combinations, like shift step to see what steps you're on, and shift and then a step, and then it doesn't tell you what note it is. So you kind of have to guess. It tells you what, if there's like so these yellow lights tell you if there's accents or different things on them. Lots of weird button pushes that is a bit overwhelming. I think is it yellow, is it red, and then you have kind of modes that you need to go into to assign some of the outputs. There's like an assign output that you can use to do like wave ramps and all kind of stuff. So it's pretty, on the surface you've just got some basic dials but then when it gets to this sequencer, it's pretty crazy. And also there's not really a massive difference between the buttons, like the actual physical shape of them. So like, and this always confused me, like the step button looks like a play button. These look like navigation kind of buttons, and you've got a run button on the bottom. So yeah, that can be kind of quite confusing. It's probably slightly out of shot here, but they all kind of look the same. So when you're trying to quickly like navigate stuff, if you're not familiar with it, as I'm not, then it can get a bit confusing. But aside from that, like I really enjoyed using it. It's just a bit kind of heady, probably for having spent so many hours listening to it. But there's some interesting stuff that I found. The patching, I'm not going to go too into detail, but the patching's basically the same for each one. I've got some keyboard tracking and envelope controlling the filters, as I quite like to do. There's a gate, like an output from the gate going into the VCA, along with something else like the envelope, I believe. Yeah. So this is interesting because the gate, because you get these things like nice little clicks, which is which you don't get on the other one. So I kind of thought that was quite cool, just adding, I like kind of finding stuff that's just got like some clicks, and there's ways of just creating clicks to give you some of those more high frequency areas without having to, program them, which I find is quite useful, just especially when you're kind of creating sounds or creating textures with effects and stuff. You can just, if you've got some clicks in there, you've kind of dealt with a lot of frequencies in one impulse, which is pretty useful. So I've got that on there. It's just basically nothing too fancy, just some filter sweeps on the sequencers. The more interesting side, I think, is on the bottom one, on this one here. So what you might have noticed at the start is kind of brassy. There we go. Let's put some bass on there. Like, listen to the bass. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, because I've got it going into the VCA, I think it's cracking the amps in there, like it's just clipping them, which when combined with the filter and everything and the envelope, it just seems to create this really interesting texture, just playing around with the volume and the velocity amount. So let me show you what I mean. Yeah, so there's quite a lot of weird kind of high textures that kind of emerge from that, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, I don't know, if you have one, try that. It's pretty cool. But yeah, the rest of it's like I'm not going to kind of go through it, because modular stuff is I find and I guess unless you're into modular, then you might want to know all the patches, but like maybe take a screenshot or something. But you can kind of hear there's nothing too crazy going on. There's just the main dials on there. I was playing around a lot with like retriggering LFOs and doing some cool stuff on the tail end where you can kind of modulate the filter just as it kind of spills out with setting the assign out. So I was getting really fancy with it, but it just sounded shit. It just sounded like crazy modular stuff, which if you're into that, that's great, but I'm not so much. So I wanted to get something that like felt raw and aggressive, but still had some of me in it, I guess. And kind of this is probably close enough, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'll do some more videos with this. I think probably not as regular as the rhythm, because it seems to take a long time, and there's just so many, you can just tweak forever, which I think yeah, that's just, I like to work really quick and just get in there, get some good sounds, and come out. But maybe it's definitely revisiting these machines and hearing how rich and heavy they are. It's worth, I'm definitely going to think about sort of sampling them or putting them in certain things, which would be quite fun. But I think for regular upload, I don't know, like the fact I'm kind of hesitant, like I've said before, it reminds me of the rhythm in a lot of respects, that like like I don't know, I've got to hang up with it. I've just got to hang up with it. So that might be a good reason just to kind of work with it a bit more, and try and get something good out of it. So but yeah, it is what it is. Shorter video, not so much to go through, but yeah, no project to download. Take a screenshot, try it out, or just play around, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.